Welcome back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one here. Are you really done with the 90s? Wow. You're gonna look dumb after you see this video right here, okay? These guys are done with the 90s, and the same guys that was done with the 90s, I've heard them say the 80s ain't no good, the 60s weren't no good, so we already know they're saying the 70s wasn't no good, right? But they never talk about the 2000s and the 2010s because LeBron played in that era, and they still think LeBron is part of this era in 2020, right? The weakest, I don't even know, like the weakest era in any sports, the 2020s. Is this even basketball anymore? And we'll talk about that, but let's get into this. And we've all seen these from ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, um, who is this? Slam Magazine, all these different fadeaway world, all these people put out their top 10 of all time, and even what they consider top 75 of all time, right? But the top 10 is the most important, right? So top 10 greatest players of NBA history, top 10 players, right? And it's always the same. Maybe a couple guys might change here and there, but it's basically all the same, right? You have Michael Jordan, you have LeBron James, you have Kareem, you have Russell, you have Magic, you have Wilt, you have Bird, you have Tim Duncan, you have Shaq, and you have Kobe Bryant, right? In no particular order. That's always the top 10, right? But in a way, we do know the order. Jordan is always number one, or LeBron is always number two on their list, right? In the majority of times is Kareem, and then people put Magic, and it gets kind of confusing, right? Some people got Bill Russell, or some people have Wilt Chamberlain, right? And it goes down to Magic, or it can go down to Duncan first. And like I said, Kobe and Shaq. Oh, my fault. Hakeem. Yeah, Hakeem is always in this thing too. So sometimes people take out Wilt and they put Hakeem maybe around, I think five or no, not definitely not five. Maybe six or seven. So sometimes Wilt is out and sometimes Russell is out and Hakeem is in. That's pretty much how we always see it on these top 10 greatest NBA players of all time. So my question is, if you're done with the 90s, the 80s, the 60s, and the 70s, then who are these guys, right? In the top 10 of all time. Who are these guys? And let me ask you a question. Who is ever going to replace these guys? Who's going to replace these guys? You can't replace these guys when you only playing offense. These guys play defense. And as much as we talk about LeBron, he did make 5 defensive first teams and 6 altogether, right? So these guys, even Magic Johnson, 3 steals titles. And, you're never going to take these players out. You can't put a Luka up in the top 10. He doesn't play defense. That's always going to be the knock. They're going to find some reason to shove Joker. If he wins maybe 3 championships, 4 MVPs, they're going to want to shove him right in this top 10. And to me, I'm not having it. You know why? Because until this guy starts winning statistical titles, I'm not impressed. He's pulling like a LeBron James. 27, 7, and 7. And at least LeBron has 2 statistical titles. I don't care, bro. You got to start winning some statistical titles because you're playing in a weak era. The only guy I know on here that doesn't have any statistical titles is Larry Bird. And he played in a strong East, and then he battled some bad boys in the finals, the Lakers. Who else he played? I think did he play Houston? I'm not sure, but the competition was just better. Larry Bird was a better defender than Joker. So even they're going to try to shove Curry in this top 10, right? I don't think it's going to happen, bro. It's going to be tough. Who are you going to take out? I can't give him credence over Hakeem. I can't. The defensive players of the year, the block titles, the rebound titles. The man, he was playing like he was a guard. Look at all them steals. I think he's like, was he like top 5 or top 10 all the time, all time in steals? What are you, what? And plus, well, number one in blocks, I think. So no way, no way I'm gonna put Curry in a non-defensive era over Hakeem. And when we talk about statistical titles, what are we talking about? Points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals, these type of things where you was the best all year. You was the best in points, you was the best in rebounds, or you was the best in the league at steals, you was the best in the league at blocks. All this stuff meant something because when you were the best at one of those things, guess what? You was a hustle guy. You had to use a lot of energy just to win those statistical titles. You was out. You had to keep your points up and play every night. And that's another thing is to win those statistical titles, you had to show up on the court. To me, those are hustle titles. To me, right? Because you're really out there, especially back in those days. You're trying to out rebound a center in the forward in the power forward every game for rebounds. Not only your teammates, but the other team too, right? You're playing these guys that want to get a statistical title too. These guys today, they don't care. They don't care about no statistical titles. When you see a dude like Nurkic, he's getting 30 rebounds a game. 20 rebounds a game, and this guy isn't battling anybody for no rebounds. He's in the paint all by himself because the way they play the game. 4 offensive guys at the 3-point line. So now you got 4 defenders at the 3-point line, and Nurkic is just there by himself getting a rebound. So look, to me, I got to go on what Dwight Howard was saying, right? He was like, "How are you trying to compare me to Joker? Look at my statistical titles. I got Defensive Player of the Years, all this stuff. Yeah, he's greater offensively, but the league got weak. Put him. When did Howard come in the league? About 2006 or something like that. Put Joker back then when you had more, you know, dudes that was bulkier, bigger, taller, right? And let's see what's up because he's. If you look at Howard when he was young, dog, he would dunk all over Joker. I'm trying to tell you, Joker ain't no defensive specialist. The problem is these guys today don't play any kind of defense. So Joker does what he wants to do. And if you even practice playing defense, if it, I said this before, if you practice defense in practice and they catch you, you're gonna get a fine. You're gonna get penalized. So look, nothing against Joker. He's good in his era. That's why I said you cannot compare eras. Well, this is what you can do when we talk about comparing eras. This is how you can do it. You can get the greatest player out of the 60s, the 70's, the 80's, the 90's, the 2000's, the 2010's, and the 2020's. Get each great player out of that era, right? And then you see what did they do in that era, right? How many championships? How many MVPs? How many finals MVPs? And how many statistical titles did they win? And when I counted them all up, Jordan had the most. When we're talking about championships, finals MVPs, and statistical titles, along with the defensive player of the year, another trophy, when you put all those up and you count them up, Jordan had the most. Wilt had the second most. Contrary to what you think, even though Wilt only had 2 championships because he had 11 scoring titles in no 11 rebound titles, 7 scoring titles, an assist title, a Finals MVP, 4 MVPs, and 2 championships. Right? Wilt had the second most of Jordan. That's a career. That's how you get down with it. Okay. And then you had Kareem with the second most when you add all those up together. You had Russell right behind him at number 4 because you had Kareem at 3. And then you had Magic at 5. You had LeBron at 6. and you had Kareem at second, okay? And a lot of people, they get mad. They say, where's Kobe? I'm going to ask you, where's his statistical titles? He has two. LeBron has two. But he only has one MVP and two finals MVPs, right? LeBron has four MVPs in um, four finals MVPs. And we already know how many championships both have. Yes, Kobe has five. LeBron has four. So LeBron, when you add all his up, he has more. I can't help it. That's how I do the criteria. Now, player for player, Kobe is better. And you're going to say, now, it's a team sport. Well, I got to count if you led your team to those championships, that's what it is. If you were the leader, right? If you were the main leader. And then, okay, now we might need to backpedal and say, wait, Kobe wasn't the leader in three of those, right? Shaq was the leader. I don't, I don't know. All I'm going to say is that's how I rank the greatest of all time. Jordan was one, Wilt was two, and Wilt would be blowing everybody away if they counted blocks, right? They'd be blowing everybody away. So what are we talking about? You can't say championships are a team accomplishment, and then you don't even put, and then you try to take Wilt out, right? Which one is it? I mean, come on now. So that's how it is to me. So let's get back to this. When you look at this, the only way one of these players are going to be out the top 10, maybe LeBron James, right? And that's when we can go back to the Kobe thing. Okay, if LeBron, if he ends up getting accused and he's guilty of taking his PEDs, well, guess what? We people are going to asterisk his championships, his finals MVPs, his MVPs, and Kobe can just move in there. Because to me, Kobe was playing in that era, so I think everything goes to Kobe, right? So, especially the MVPs. I don't know about the championships, but the MVPs definitely would go to Kobe. Um, Let me see. So that's the only person I see getting out of this top 10. If something happens to LeBron with the steroids, allegedly. But to me, LeBron, he's not in this top 10 to me. This is what they're saying. And I'm trying to prove a point. To me, LeBron ain't in my top 10 or in the top 5. And that's because they can't tell me why LeBron is better than Kareem. They can't do it. And I just told you the criteria that I went over: championships, finals MVPs, and statistical titles, right? LeBron doesn't add up. He doesn't add up to Wilt. He doesn't add up to Russell. He doesn't add up to Magic. Let's see. Maybe, maybe Duncan. I don't think that's another dude, right? Duncan. No statistical titles. That's why he can't be in my top 5. Great player, but no statistical titles. Um, like I said, none of these guys, whether it's my top 5 or my top 6, 7, nobody from, or these guys top 10, none of these guys are ever going to leave out of this top 10. They cannot prove Joker was a better player than Jordan. So far, LeBron, if he doesn't get accused of anything. I'm talking about for a career. You're going to have to prove that for a career. I don't want to hear about, oh, he's doing this now, blah, blah, blah. Look how young he is. A whole career. Not better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not better than Russell. I don't care about what kind of stats he's putting up. He ain't putting up no statistical titles, right? Not better than Magic. Not better than Bird. Not better than Duncan. Not better than Kobe. Not better than Shaq. Shaq would be doing this, dude. Not better than Wilt. Nobody will never, ever replace this top 10. As long as I'm alive. Maybe so when I die. And it's not going to happen. And then you got to ask yourself, you got other guys like Oscar Robertson. Who else that's like on the borderline? Karl Malone, Charles Barkley. Who else? Havlicek. I mean, you got a lot of guys that played under different. You got Worthy. These guys were playing under different circumstances as far as defense. And you can't really blame these guys in this era about the defense because they didn't put the defensive rules in there. It's not their fault that they outlawed defense in 2005 and it kept getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So you really can't blame these guys. But maybe we need to do this, right? Every era needs to have maybe their top 10. And that's how we settle it, right? Because we can't compare eras. So everybody needs to have their top 10 um, of all time until this is the 75th year, right? Or what was it? The 2020? When was that? Was it 2020? Whenever the 75th year was. They need to, you know, whatever makes up 75 or 76 or 78, how many years they go on and on throughout the years, they need to add another year to each decade. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you can do it. Because other than that, to me, my way is the only logical way, right? You can only get the top player out of each era. The 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 10, 20. And you get those guys, like I said, you look at the championships, how many finals MVPs, how many MVPs, and how many statistical titles, and maybe a defensive player of the year, and that's how you rank them. And that's how I rank mine. That shows how good this, like I said, the statistical titles is about how great you was on the floor. 27, 7, and 7 does not mean nothing. That's like you're playing in the middle. You're playing in the middle. You're playing in the middle. Jordan could have did that his whole career. He wanted to be the greatest at scoring, stealing the ball, this type of stuff. He wanted to be a two-way player. 200 plus steals for 6 straight seasons is madness. It's crazy. Hakeem wanted to be one of the best defenders, right, of all time, and he was. Wilt wanted to be one of the best two-way players of all time. So did Jerry West. They didn't count steals back then, but Jerry West averaged well over 2 steals a game, and sometimes 3 a game. So Jerry West, you know, how can I put Luka or Joker over Jerry West? Homie was clutch, but you're not gonna beat the Celtics team they got like 10 Hall of Fame players on their team. You ain't gonna beat a team like that. It's just like that. But no, I pretty much, when we talk about the 60s, you had to pull 2 guys up out of there, Wilt and Russell. That's just how it was. It was 2 dominant guys in that same era. Um, and I guess you could say Magic and Bird came out of the 80s, 2 guys. And we ain't even talking about David Robinson. I mean, when you take a guy like David Robinson and you put him next to Joker would take off running, bro. He would take off running. Do you know how strong and whew, how big David Robinson was? You couldn't put him down there with Joker. That would be a joke. You guys are trying to take an era right now where the guys don't really show no effort on defense and let Luka just walk on down the lane. Larry Bird would swat his shit down the damn street. Like, what are you doing? Larry Bird, like, dude, you ain't fixing to walk down the lane like that. So, tell me what you think. Like I said, this top 10 will never be changed. Like I said, they might try to shove Joker in here down the line. They already try to shove Curry up in there. And no, he's not better than all these guys. Either it's championships or it's not. That's what one minute they say, oh, he got more championships than Wilt. Okay, Russell has the most championships, so he should be number 1. No, it don't work like that. And like I said, these are these guys' criteria. These are the top 10 for these guys. Like I said, this ain't my top 10. If you want to watch my channel, I give you my top, but what was it? Top 7 of all time. And I just told you my criteria, and nobody can match that. What ESPN, what Fox is telling you, what all these people is telling you is crap. It's championships, finals MVPs, statistical titles, and defensive player of the year. Right? That's the criteria. You put all them together, those are the best, those are the greatest players. Jordan, Wilt, Russell, no, my fault. Jordan, Wilt, Kareem, Russell,